while the Flash may be the fastest man alive, there are sometimes moments or battles that can't be won with speed. But most of the time, they usually are still won with speed, which makes for a happy ending, yes, but also a ridiculous story.
It was me, Barry.
So those ridiculous moments are what we're exploring today. But first, let's talk about how comics are a bit of an expensive love. Cause let's face the facts here. If you actually want the physical copies of your comic books, it's not cheap. It's not cheap at all. The comic book store I go to charges what I feel is a ridiculous amount of money for actual comic books, but like, I'm also a gamer. With all our money typically going to comic books, whenever we want to play a game, there typically isn't any spare cash. But luckily, one of the greatest RPGs of all time is available for free. That's right, you know it, you love it, Raid Shadow Legends, now with over 600 champions, who just so happen to be sponsoring this video. And boy am I excited for their new Hydra clan boss. This thing has 6 different heads, all with awesome abilities, like the Head of Suffering that splits all damage dealt to it across your team, making it one hell of a fight. Taking care of that pain link will be hard if you don't want it to wipe your team. And you know me, I love some mischief. But the Head of Mischief is no joke. It can cause pure chaos in the fight, and it also seems like it has a lot of fun doing it. It'll steal all the buffs from your fully buffed champion, then spread them out to all other Hydra heads in battle. Yeah, and the graphics are amazing. I mean, look at that Hydra! Not to mention the classic RPG trope of summoning champions at the tavern. I'll be drinking with them. They're also giving away a brand new champion you may already recognize. It's esports legend and Navi superstar Simple. Between now and January 28, 2022, Simple's limited edition champion is available for free to both new and old players. All you need to do is log in for 7 days in a row and all this treasure can be yours. There's seriously never been a better time to get started. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code and you'll get an epic champion Rector Draft, 200,000 silver, 1 energy refill, 1 XP boost, and an ancient shard, so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in game. This entire package is also worth $30, so that's pretty nuts. All this treasure and more will be waiting for you right here in the in-game inbox. So what are you waiting for? All you need to do is launch the game for 7 days and you'll unlock this awesome super limited edition champion. So do it. And thanks to Raid for sponsoring this video. In at 10, Rainbow Raider. Rage is never really a good thing to suppress. Trust me, I've had my fair share of suppressed emotions, but eventually everything you feel will come boiling to the surface and it will be worse than before. This was demonstrated in the first CW crossover between Arrow and the Flash called Flash vs. Arrow, where Barry gets whammied by Rainbow Raider and starts getting pretty pissed. So mad in fact that it's kind of like the DC TV version of Bully Maguire. No matter, I'm honestly surprised that the Rage just didn't kill Barry or cause him to go so insane that someone had to kill him. I mean, like, obviously they wouldn't, that would never be the case, but still, like in a realistic scenario, or as realistic as we can get with superpowered beings, he would in my mind have gotten himself killed at some point during this altercation. If Reverse Flash wasn't stuck in 2014, I'm sure that he would have taken that opportunity to, like, you know, right in his chest. In at 9, Flashpoint, a timeline of Barry's own creation where his mother doesn't die and he thus doesn't become the Flash. Oh, and don't forget the fact that Aquaman and Wonder Woman are at war, because Barry's mom doesn't die. And at the very least in the animated movie, this resulted in them destroying the world, literally destroying the planet. Barry has to run back in time and stop himself from saving his mother, letting her die just so that he can save the planet. But in this case, Flash literally outruns the destruction of a globe, of a planet, and does so in order to let his mom die. Like, holy crap, that's insane. I don't know if I would have the strength to do that. So, to me, it's pretty ridiculous that Barry firstly survived the destruction of the world, and then survived having to sacrifice his mother. Both emotionally and physically surviving this is pretty damn impressive in my personal opinion. He should either have exploded with the rest of the world, or not been strong enough to sacrifice his mother. Like, either way, she dies, right? So, like, you might as well keep your father out of prison and give her, like, another decade of life, right? In at 8, Injustice. Barry siding with Superman and his regime during the beginning of Injustice is certainly one of the dumbest things he's done. I mean, Barry is faster than Superman, we've seen it many times. Barry left him in the dust at one point while trying to return to the Speed Force to sacrifice himself, saying that all their other races were for charity. So siding with Superman doesn't really do much for you. It's not like he can catch you if you decide to join Batman's insurgency. And considering how you sacrificed your mother for this planet's survival, I'm sure that you'd have normally been against these ideals. I mean, he ended up agreeing with Shazam when he said that leveling cities was too far. And then that's when Barry decides to leave, after they've killed Billy. Why did you join in the first place? Bro, I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. If I were Superman, I would have just killed the Flash instantly, no matter what side he was on, because in reality, he's like the only one who could pose a threat to me. This also brings up another question. If Barry did the whole vibrating hand thing, so that like Reverse Flash does, so that he was the frequency of air, could he kill Superman? Or would he need like a Kryptonian glove? But like he's air, right? So he should be able to pass through his chest. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think. And at 7, Savitar. The fact that Barry was able to survive the whole Savitar thing from the Flash season 3 will always escape me. I won't really ever understand how they ended up defeating a literal future version of Barry. I get how they managed to do it, but that was incredibly unrealistic, even for a show about a man who can run at the speed of light. Since technically Savitar would have known beforehand that the timeline was changing, since technically that should, in my brain at least, be how time travel works. Like, something changes, even if the current Barry doesn't know it yet, the Barry of the future would, because he would have to be from that time, right? That's just how it would work. But that's not how it works in the show, so that's fine, I guess. I don't see how it would ever have been possible to beat a future version of the Flash without this, but like, I know that he couldn't really die, since if he died, Savitar wouldn't be able to happen, despite his taunting in earlier episodes. I feel like that was just a way to prevent Barry from killing himself to stop him, but still, you shouldn't have won against Savitar, straight up. And at 6, DeVoe. The Flash Season 4 is not a favorite among fans. We all thought that we wanted a non-speedster as the main villain for a season. However, some dude who can literally think a lot was not what we had envisioned. But honestly, looking at what DeVoe was able to do, he was even more powerful than Savitar, who was literally a future version of Barry. Like, DeVoe could accurately predict every single thing that was going to happen, and the only way they could defeat him was by getting his wife on their side, getting Barry out of prison, and then somehow having Ralph take over his mind again from inside DeVoe, or like inside of his mind that DeVoe was controlling, and then not having any of the other powers that DeVoe had when he was in Ralph's body, which I don't understand. That whole ordeal, okay, was probably realistically impossible, but they somehow managed to pull it off. DeVoe should have been the end of Barry and the entirety of Team Flash. Like, as soon as Barry came out of the Speed Force, DeVoe should have killed him. Like, he made the bus metas and then he got out. Like, now you don't need to worry, right? You've offed him. Or like, kill Barry as soon as like he did what you needed him to do. Like, as soon as he trained Ralph enough, you just go and you off Barry and then you take over Ralph. Most of the villains in these shows fail because they make like one stupid mistake. Okay? And this is why I'm the hero, because if I was the villain, I wouldn't make dumb mistakes and the world would have been destroyed already. Halfway through and at number 5, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Technically speaking, the comic version of Barry Allen did survive Crisis on Infinite Earths, despite everyone believing him to be dead at the time, since he returned to the Speed Force after turning into the lightning bolt that ended up giving him his powers to begin with. But after transforming into pure lightning, traveling through time and space, and striking himself, Barry was sent into the Speed Force and then later escapes and comes back into our world in the Flash Rebirth storyline. So technically he survived the comic version of Crisis because he didn't die, he just transcended dimensions, I guess. But he also survived the Crisis from the CW crossover as well, since in this instance, despite like 6 seasons of us seeing a newspaper saying that our Barry vanishes, the Barry Allen from the 90s Flash series, aka Earth 90, was the one who ended up disappearing. Even though we literally saw a newspaper telling us about how our Flash died for 6 years. And no matter what, unless Barry didn't have his speed, that article stayed true. The byline changed, the articles around it changed, but the fact that Barry vanished in Crisis never did as long as he had his speed. So I don't know how he got out of that one. I guess like killing off one main character in that crossover was enough for the CW, but they would have just brought him back again. So like, what's the deal here? In 4 fought the Speed Force. Speaking of the CW, going from a crisis where every Earth gets destroyed, it's hard to make any other story seem worth it. However, the absolute crazy thing is that in the following season of The Flash, season 7, they upped the stakes by having Barry fight the literal Speed Force. A reborn Speed Force, might I add, since Barry ended up killing it when Oliver Queen as the Spectre brought out its full potential in order to save the multiverse. So, Barry and Iris end up essentially giving birth to another one, but like birth adjacent. But while they were rebirthing the Speed Force, they also created 3 other forces that were all evil for one time or another. And then they get all the other ones on their side, but the Speed Force wants to kill the other forces because she thinks that the other forces are trying to kill her. And the Speed Force looks like Barry's mom again, and then they even start calling her Nora. Honestly, it's a question as to how anyone watching this survived this storyline, let alone Barry fighting the literal thing that gave him his powers that he killed and then rebirthed and then was basically the father of, even though it looked like his mom. Season 7 definitely had some issues, but Barry should honestly not have won against the Speed Force. Getting close to the end in number 3, beating Teleportation. There was a comic called The Human Race, where a group of cosmic gamblers who existed at the edge of the universe traveled around the cosmos and made bets with each other for fun. They were ultra mega powerful, so this was their only form of entertainment. They picked speedsters throughout the cosmos and then made them race each other in their bets, and then the speedster who lost got his or her home planet destroyed. In one such bet, Earth gets the attention of these cosmic gamblers, so Wally West, the fastest man on this planet, became the representative of Earth. During the race with a fellow speedster in the bet, Wally, who realized that the cosmic gamblers will never refuse a friendly wager, makes a bet with them that he will reach Earth first, despite the fact that the cosmic gamblers can teleport to any location in the cosmos instantly. This appeared to be a ridiculous gambit. The cosmic gamblers agree, and before the race even begins, using the kinetic energy of everyone on Earth and then some, Wally ran at what is called the trans-time velocity, fast enough to beat teleportation, which is basically 23 tridactylion times faster than the speed of light. Yeah, that's 23 with like 20 zeros, or 30 zeros, something like that. He reasonably should have lost and gotten the whole planet destroyed, because there's no way in hell that would happen, or he would have just disintegrated while running that fast. If Barry dies during Crisis, he should have died beating Teleportation. Penultimately, in at number 2, Armageddon. The most recent episodes of The Flash started off season 8 with the Armageddon crossover, with Barry starting to believe he's going crazy and in the future ends up creating Armageddon, destroying the entire world. However, this turns out not to be the case, since Reverse Flash is actually the one who creates Armageddon by turning himself into the Flash and then causing Barry as Reverse Flash to fix things. In order to fix things though, Barry must run at Mach 20, which is 20 times the speed of sound. But Thawne doing this behind him as well, in order to stop him, ends up tearing the world apart, at least until Barry fixes everything, causing the Reverse Flashpoint to no longer exist. Yeah, this was pretty ridiculous, but also a good story. Some of the best writing we've seen from the show in a while. That Reverse Flashpoint episode was awesome, but I am kind of partial to some alternate timeline episodes where we could see how things could have been, but honestly, I'm surprised Barry survived this, and for good reason. Because the episode before he ran back in time, Barry had Jefferson Pierce, Black Lightning, drain him of his speed nearly completely so that he couldn't hurt anyone again. He wanted to do it completely, but Jefferson stopped. But according to Thawne, Barry only had around 5% of his speed left, maybe less. So how could Barry have run at Mach 20? And how could Thawne, if he was truly the Flash in this timeline, not have caught up with him? That seems fairly ridiculous if you ask me. And finally, in at number 1, Black Flash. Black Flash is the Grim Reaper of the Speed Force, making his first appearance in The Flash Volume 2 number 138 in 1998. He was seen before the deaths of several speedsters including Barry Allen, Johnny Quick, and Bart Allen, and in essence making him the speedster embodiment of death. In the CW Arrowverse, he was Hunter Zolomon after being caught by time wraiths, and was killed in Season 3's finale by Killer Frost when Black Flash came for Savitar since the Paradox had finally caught up with him. In the comics, he dies thanks to the combined efforts of multiple speedsters including Jesse Quick, Jay Garrick, and Max Mercury, and Wally was able to race Black Flash to the end of time, causing death to have no meaning, which didn't matter for long since Barry Allen then returns in the Flash Rebirth storyline as the new Black Flash, unknowingly, until Professor Zoom takes over the title when his corpse is raised in the Blackest Night storyline. Either way, if this man is supposed to be the representation of death, and what inevitably comes for all speedsters, how was a Barry able to outrun him at any point? Or how was anyone able to outrun him? How was Wally able to outrun him? I don't know, okay? It shouldn't have happened. That's all the time we have for today, friends. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been and shall remain Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video.